well. Very good. We are now live on both Facebook and YouTube. Now, it doesn't allow me to see who jumps in, so make sure you say hello. Make sure you leave a comment. Hello, Lynn. Glad to see you're here. Yes, if you want me to notice you're here, go ahead and leave a comment. Now, last time it didn't show me all the comments last night, so a few of them I didn't see until after we're done. Like Rev, for instance, Carl Anderson, Rev, I did not notice that you were here until later. So, sorry that I missed that comment. But anyway, it won't show me all the comments, I don't think, but it does show me some. I see Nicholas has joined us. Hello, good sir. Good to see you as well. And tonight we will be resuming with more. And please leave comments on YouTube as well. And if you are on the Facebook live stream, feel free to jump over to the YouTube one if you like, where you can subscribe to my channel there, and you'll also receive notifications there when I go live via YouTube. Anyway, please share it with your friends, share it with everyone so they know that this is happening and that we're all going to have a good time. Tonight we will be reading more Russian fairy tales. We will also be reading one of my own tales, and I've decided one of my favorite ones I've ever written. That's the one I will share with you tonight. It's a short version of one of my stories called A Cool Spot in Hell, about a man who dies, surprise, surprise, goes to hell, and he ends up finding the one place in hell where a little piece of heaven is pouring down on him. Quite a charming little story. I love it, and I'm sure you will too. Anyway, yes, thank you, Shay, for sharing the post. I appreciate it. And yes, shall we get to it? I'm not sure how many people are currently watching, but I do know there are some of you. So let us move forward. The name of my YouTube channel. Ah, yes, that is a good question. Oh, no, why are you playing music? The name of my YouTube channel, I believe, is B Pokorny 1. So Pokorny, the number 1. I'm pretty sure that's the one. Let me make sure. Yes, that's it, my channel. And if I want to share my channel, then let me see here. I think that'll work. I'm going to put the link in the comments section here. That should get you there. That should get you there. And here we are. Tuned. Also, I'm going to adjust the description. There we are. Okay, so it is now also in the description. Good question, Nicholas. Good question indeed, and I appreciate that. Now, moving forward, shall we read some fairy tales? Last night we left off on one called The Crane and the Heron. Now, I don't think I told you that title. That's where we left off, so let us jump right in there with The Crane and the Heron. Goodness. There once was an owl, a merry bird was she. She flew and flew, perched on a tree, wiggled her tail, rolled her eyes, and took wings again. She flew and flew, perched on a tree, wiggled her tail, and rolled her eyes. But that's the flourish just for fun. The real tale has not begun. Once upon a time, a crane and a heron lived in a bog. They had little huts, one at each end of it. The crane grew weary of living alone and decided to marry. I will go woo the heron. The crane set out, flap, flap, and he flapped over the bog for seven versts. Finally, he arrived and asked, "Is the heron at home?" "She is." "Heron, be my wife." "No, crane, I will not be your wife. Your legs are too long, your clothes are too short, your flying is poor, and you cannot support me. Go away, you spindle shanks." Spindle shanks, I like that word. Also, I need to look up the length of a verst. Let me do that real quick before we end the story. There's another 2 or 3 paragraphs, but I'm curious what a verst is. Verst length. 1 verst is equal to 1,166.67 yards. So how many miles is a verst? 1 verst is 0.663 3 miles. That is good and long. So 7 versts. That so 4.64 miles. That is how far the heron flew. There. Oh, sorry, the crane, not the heron. The crane flew that far. And one more thing. Let's look up spindle shanks, shall we? Do any of you know what spindle shanks means? Spindle shanks. Apparently it's a restaurant in Tahoe. But let's look up the definition. Spindle shanks, a person with long, thin legs, or as a noun, long, thin legs. So, the heron was being a little derogatory, but also at the same time was being a little redundant. He said, "You long, thin-legged spindle shanks." Well, in a matter of words. Anyway, back to the story. It looks like the heron does not want to marry the crane because the crane flies sloppily and has long, thin legs. In other words, is a spindle shanks. The crane returned home with a long face. Later, the heron changed her mind and thought to herself, "Why should I live alone? I would be better to marry the crane." She came to him and said, "Crane, take me to wife." "No, Heron, I don't need you. I don't want to get married, and I don't take I don't take you to wife. Get out." The heron wept for shame and went home. The crane changed his mind and thought to himself, "I was wrong not to marry the heron. It is wearisome to live alone. I will go now and take her to wife." He came and said, "Heron, I've decided to marry you. Be my wife." "No, crane, I won't be your wife." So the crane went home. Then the heron changed her mind and thought, "Why did I refuse him? What good is it to live alone? I'd rather marry the crane." So she came to propose, and this time the crane refused, and to this very day they go to each other to propose, but never get married. Interesting story. I don't Goodness gracious, it is quite a lovely evening and there's a lot of wind, nice cool wind out. So I've opened the window, so I'm hearing some odd noises. But regardless, interesting story. Not quite sure what the moral is, but other than maybe, hey, make up your mind or you'll spend your whole life not getting anything done. That's the first time I think I've thought of a possible moral for one of these stories. Anyway, let's move on. Let us move on to the next. Ooh, a good long story here. Oh, very, very good length. It's a long enough story that there are 2 illustrations. And this one's called Alyosha Popovich. So let us move on. And then after this story, I will read you one of my own and we will go back to the Russian fairy tales. So here we are. Alyosha Popovich. In the heavens, a bright new moon was born, and on earth, in the house of Leonte, Leonti, I don't quite know how to say it, but I feel silly, but that's all right. The old priest of the cathedral, a son, a mighty hero. He was named Alyosha Popovich, a fine name. He was given meat and drink, and in one day he grew as much as other babies in a week. In 1 week he was as others at the end of the year. Soon he began to walk in the streets and to play with other little children. If he grasped someone by the arm came off. If he grasped someone by the leg came off. Terrible were his games. If he took a man by the body, he pulled off his belly. Then Alyosha came of age and asked his father and mother to give him their blessing and their permission to try his luck in the field of battle. His father answered, "Alyosha Popovich, you are going into the field of battle. There are mightier men than you on this earth. Therefore, take Merishko Perinov's son, as your faithful servant." So the brave knights mounted their good steeds, and as they rode off into the great world, a pillar of dust smoked behind them, and they were gone. Soon the brave knights came to the realm of Prince Vladimir. Alyosha Popovich went straight to the prince's white stone palace, crossed himself as it prescribed, and bowed, as he had been taught, to all 4 sides, and to Prince Vladimir in addition. Prince Vladimir welcomed them, bade them sit down at the oaken table, and gave them meat and drink before he questioned them. They ate marvelous gingerbreads, washing them down with heady wines. Then Prince Vladimir asked them, "Who are you, brave youths? Are you bold and mighty heroes, or chance travelers, untrustworthy persons? I know neither of your names, nor your father's names." Alyosha Popovich answered, "I am the son of Leonti, however you say it, the old priest of the cathedral, and my name is Alyosha Popovich. Here by my side is my servant, Marishko Peronov's son." When he had eaten and drunk his fill, Alyosha Popovich went to the brick stove to rest, for it was after midday. But Marishko Peronov's son remained seated at the table. At that time, Tugarin Zmivich, son of the dragon, a mighty champion, invaded and scoured Prince Vladimir's kingdom. Tugarin Zmivich came to Prince Vladimir's white stone palace. With one stride of his left leg, he crossed the threshold. With one stride of his right leg, he reached the oaken table. He ate and drank and embraced the princess. He made mock of Prince Vladimir. He put one loaf of bread in one cheek and another in the other cheek, and then he put a whole swan on his tongue, pushed it in with a pancake, and swallowed everything in one gulp. That is what I call impressive. That's a lot to eat in one gulp there. Alyosha, who was lying on the brick stove, spoke these words to Tugarin Zmivich. "My father, the old priest Leonti, once had a big cow, a gluttonous cow that went from the brewery to brewery and drank whole barrels of beer and the dregs. Then this big cow, this gluttonous cow, went to a lake and drank all the water from it, and suddenly she burst. And so may you, Tugarin Zmivich, burst at this table." Tugarin became enraged at Alyosha Popovich and hurled a steel knife at him, but Alyosha Popovich was quick and dodged behind an oaken pillar. Then Alyosha spoke these words: "Thanks, Tugarin Zmivich, mighty champion, for giving me thy steel knife. With it I will cut open thy white breast, dim thy bright eyes, and behold thy fiery heart." As Alyosha said these words, Marishko Peronov's son jumped from behind the oaken table onto his nimble feet, grabbed Tugarin by the neck, pulled him from the table, and hurled him against the white wall. The glass windows were shattered in splinters. Alyosha Popovich spoke up from the brick stove. "Oh, you Marishko Peronov's son, faithful and devoted servant." Marishko Peronov's son answered, "Give me the steel knife, Alyosha Popovich. I will cut open Tugarin's white breast, dim his bright eyes, and behold his fiery heart." Alyosha answered from the brick stove, "Oh, Marishko Peronov's son, do not befoul this white stone palace. Let him go into the open field. There we shall meet him tomorrow and give him battle." Before I move on to the next page, allow me to show you the picture. Here it is. I'm imagining this here is the dragon prince person, the big beast. Anyway, there they are. There's the picture. And on to the next page here. If it will ever let me turn to the next page and not the page after that. All right. I have a feeling it's going to be a bad thing that they fight him the next day as opposed to on that day when they had the upper hand. But let us see what happens. Next day, Marishka Peronov's son rose at the very break of dawn and led the spirited horses out to drink water at the swift-flowing stream. Tugarin, the dragon's son, flew through the air and challenged Alyosha Popovich to come to the open field. And Marishka Peronov's son came to Alyosha Popovich, saying, "God be thy judge, Alyosha Popovich, that thou gavest me not the steel knife. I would have cut open this knave's white breast. I would have dimmed his bright eyes and beheld his fiery heart. Now what will you take from this Tugarin? He is flying through the air." Alyosha spoke these words: "If I do not triumph, heaven is betrayed." Alyosha brought forth his good steed, saddled him with a Circassian saddle, tightened it with 12 silken girths, not for beauty's sake, but for strength, and went to the open field. He rode all around it and beheld Tugarin Zmivich flying through the air, and Alyosha Popovich made this prayer: "Holy Mother of God, send me a black cloud, and send a pelting rain from the black cloud to wet Tugarin's paper wings." Alyosha's prayer reached heaven. A threatening black cloud rolled over the sky. From it, God made a heavy pelting rain to fall, and Tugarin's paper wings wilted. He fell to the damp earth and rode into the open field. Like two mountains rolling together, so did Tugarin and Alyosha meet. They clashed with their maces. The maces broke at the handles. They clashed with their spears. The spears twisted on their staves. They swung their sabers. The sabers broke. Alyosha fell from his saddle like a sheaf of oats, and Tugarin Zmivich began to smite him. But Alyosha was quick and dodged under the horse's belly. Then he crawled out from under the horse's belly on the other side and struck Tugarin with a knife under the right breast, and threw him down from his good steed, and began to shout at him, "Thanks, Tugarin Zmivich, for thy steel knife. I will cut open thy white breast, I will dim thy bright eyes, I will behold thy fiery heart." And Alyosha cut off Tugarin's rash head and carried it to Prince Vladimir. He rode and he played with the head, tossing it high in the air and catching it on the tip of his spear. Looking from afar, Vladimir took fright. "Behold, Tugarin carrying Alyosha's rash head," he said. "Now, in sooth, he will enslave our Christian kingdom." Marishko Perenov's son answered, "Grieve not, Vladimir, our little red son, our prince of the capital city of Kiev. If the foul Tugarin rides on the ground and flies not through the air, he will lose his rash head by my steel spear. Be not distressed, Prince Vladimir. When the time comes, I shall fight him." Then Marishko Perenov's son looked into the spyglass and recognized Alyosha Popovich. "I know him by his mighty gait and his heroic posture," he said. "It is Alyosha turning his steed sharply, tossing the head high and catching it on the tip of his spear. It is not the foul Tugarin riding yonder, but Alyosha Popovich, the son of Leonti, the old priest of the cathedral. And on his spear he carries the head of the foul Tugarin Zmivich." And here is the photo on this page. Now, I don't quite know why the story stops there, but that was a rather exciting one compared to many of the ones of the past, was it not? I quite enjoyed that one, and I hope you did as well. Now, that's right, I told you I'd read one of my own stories now. I was all excited and ready to read more Russian fairy tales, but we will get back to those. For now, let us read one of a Brett Corney original. This one, like I said before, is called A Cool Spot in Hell. So, here we are. A Cool Spot in Hell. Sorry, I just have to pull it up here. And here it is. There was a man who died, and, big surprise, he went to hell. His sin was not gluttony or vanity, it wasn't murder, and it wasn't suicide. This man's sin was disbelief. He had been a good man in life, however, he had not been thankful. He rejected religion because he was too scared he would pick the wrong one. His last thought was, "Shit!" He died the instant the bus forgot to stop. When he got to hell, he stood in line. The line was not very long, but it was one of many. "Thank God these lines are short," he yelled. Everyone laughed, then looked around. A collective sigh and lowering of heads ensued. The person at the front of the man's line stepped into the booth. Sorry, I forgot to mention, there's a booth at the front of his line. But anyway, the person at the front of the man's line stepped into the booth, and the person who was questioning from the booth stepped out. They walked away, and the line moved forward one step. A new person appeared behind the man. The man then heard the new front of the line 4 steps away scream, "What? You don't know my sin!" 1 step. The new front stepped up. The old front, new person in the booth, began to cry. Through the bawling, the man could make out one repeated phrase being screamed. "I don't want to shovel shit for eternity. I don't want to shovel shit. I don't want to..." Meanwhile, the new front stood in confusion. This went on for about 23 and a half days until the crying stopped. The new booth person then looked at the new front. The man then screamed, "So, what did you do?" The new front was deaf. The new booth screamed, "You're deaf?" Oh, sorry, the new front was deaf. The new booth person repeated the question until the new front person pointed to his ears. The new booth screamed, "You're deaf? I didn't know that was a sin. Well, how about this? You have to take food orders for eternity from an angry vegan in a steakhouse, doing so without the ability to write, sign, talk, or read lips." He then left the booth, and the new front became the new booth, 1 step. It was at this point that the man began to realize something. These persons were not coming to punishment sentencing chronologically from history. In fact, the person 2 steps ahead of the man did not appear to speak any sort of language at all, more sophisticated than grunts and snarls, that is. Nearly 6 years and 24 days had passed when the man finally found himself 1 step from the front of the line. The new booth gargled and snarled something quite obscene in its incomprehensiveness while making a horrifying hand motion, 1 step. The man came to the front of the line and stared at the man in front of him as he entered the booth. The new booth tried to speak softly, but to no avail. Instead, he screamed, "I have no idea what I'm in for. Whatever it is, it's bad. I don't even know what I did to get here. What about you?" The man replied in the calmest of yells, "I forgot to believe in God before I caught the bus." "You forgot?" the new booth screamed. "How do you forget? You either do or you don't." "Oh, well, you seem decent, so I'll go easy on you. You will walk until you stop. Once you stop, however, you will never be able to move from that spot again. You will have to stand still for all eternity without sitting, simply staying in that one spot." This time, the man took not one step, but several. It was his turn to determine a punishment for the new front. The man quietly yelled, "What's your name?" "Doesn't matter," the new front screamed. "What do you mean?" the man yelled. "Doesn't matter." "Doesn't matter. Just get on with it," the new front screamed. The man thought for a moment. "Fine, asshole. Your punishment is to be constantly stabbed by 100 angry, hyperactive minions wielding knitting needles." "I guess I deserve that," screamed the new front. The man suddenly felt compelled to move from the booth. He did not know where he was going, but he knew he was leaving the booth. Behind the booth, he walked through a small gate he hadn't noticed before. Who knew he would never notice a gate? Who knew he would never notice a gate in the whole slight more than 6 years he had been standing in line? As he came to the gate, a small voice appeared in his head and told him, "Welcome to hell. Depending on your punishment, you may or may not be greeted by a minion. Depending on the severity of that punishment, the minion may or may not be vicious. Please enjoy your stay." In passing the gate and officially entering hell, the man began to walk. A demon attempted to stop the man, but he knew his punishment and therefore walked small circles around the demon, staring upward at his face. "Stop circling me, or your punishment shall be made worse," said the demon. "I'm afraid this is part of my punishment," yelled the man. "I cannot stop walking, and if I do, I can never move again." "In that case, you will not be in need of minions. Please carry on through hell." "How many levels of hell are there?" the man yelled. "Just the one. However, it goes on for eternity. The only edge is at the lake of fire. A permit is required to enter the lake. Only Satan himself can write you a permit. Feel free to try your hand at finding the 97 secrets of hell. If you can acquire each one, you will be reincarnated on Earth as the last of the 97 secrets you find. This can be anything ranging from a person to a jelly bean." Another man ran up to the demon. He screamed, "I found a secret of hell!" The demon responded, "You know about it. You know what it is." Once again, the man screamed, "Yes." The demon responded, "Then it's not a secret, is it? Go now, resume your punishment." The other man walked away, and rather than continuing his circles around the demon, the man decided to leave and get on with his punishment elsewhere. And his trek through hell. At first, it seemed no different than walking anywhere, other than the fact that it was really hot, and the ground was just one solid surface. There were places where it was smooth and places where it was cracked, but it was one solid surface, perfectly flat as far as the eye could see, and then some. There were no buildings, no trees, no other people, unless you looked for them. You only noticed others when you wished to notice them. You only noticed others when you wished to notice the others. The man wondered if this would work for the secrets of hell as well. When he tried, he saw many random people and objects scattered close and in the distance. The closest was a woman. She was slender, with piercing green eyes, pale skin, and black hair. She was wearing a white dress that hung close to her body as she stood straight and tall. As the man approached her, she stared at him. The man yelled, "Are you a secret of hell?" She looked scared, blinked a few times, and disappeared. The man heard an angelic whisper in his head, "I was." It was at this point in time, or timelessness if you want to get technical, that the man had a particular thought come to mind. What if there was one particular secret of hell? He began to think very hard about one secret of hell, a secret that not even the devil himself would know about. He saw nothing. He concentrated harder as he walked, when an old man appeared on the ground in front of him. "Who are you?" he yelled. The old man was crawling as he screamed, "I have been walking for 37 lifetimes. Only the devil himself can find me now." The man left the old man by thinking once more of the ultimate secret, and as he was thinking, he came to a stop. "No!" he yelled. The man's momentary scare was interrupted by feelings of overwhelming joy. For although he had not walked through hell for a day and already had an eternal resting point, the man was comfortable. As a smile came across his face, a handsome, angelic man appeared before him. "What seems to be the problem here?" he said. The man in his hat was perplexed. "Why aren't you screaming or anything?" he yelled. "That is not my punishment," the handsome man replied. "I was born at the dawn of time, and in my selfish manner I waged war against the being I love most. As a result, I was thrown into this pit to watch over the rejected, but I digress. You yelled because you are not allowed the comfort of privacy in hell. All you hear, or should I say privacy, regardless, all hear your every word, just as you hear theirs. Not even your thoughts are safe. Now that you have had your question, will you allow me mine? How is it that you are so content in this place? Do you know of a loved one who's in heaven? Do you enjoy the dry heat? What can it be that allows you to smile so widely in a place of such torment?" The man simply looked up, closed his eyes, and breathed deeply. As the devil turned his gaze to the fiery skies of hell, he noticed a rift between the two planes. Heaven was leaking happiness in this one spot, the spot the man had decided to stop on for eternity. "I see. If you would kindly move aside, I will give you a temporary permit into the lake of fire. If you do not step aside, your punishment shall be increased tenfold." "I'm afraid this is my punishment," the man yelled. The devil stared at the man for a second before pulling a small book from his pocket. He flipped through it with blinding speed, and a tear fell from his eyes. "I have been here for the whole of eternity, and you have been here for one day. I have been suffering since before your ancestors were thoughts, and you will now only feel the joys of heaven that I once knew and lost. I would share your space, however, in my own rules I have left no loopholes. Punishments are eternal. Not even I can change them. I cannot show signs of intentional affection, for I am without the capacity, even if they are deceitful and self-serving. If I were to hug you for the purpose of feeling heaven once more, it would undo my very existence." The devil then did something he had not done in a long time. He turned to God for help. When God heard of the rift, he whispered, "In creating these places, I made no mistakes. I am perfect, as are the walls and boundaries that separate us. If this rift is truly existent, it was not by my hands that it was created. I can therefore not fix it, or it would be admitting an imperfection in my ways, thereby destroying not only myself, but also all that exists. I'm sorry, my son, but you must look to your peers." The man had one final thought before he whispered to the crying devil, "You may not." The man opened his arms and embraced Lucifer for a few moments. The devil stepped back, showing no emotion for fear of undoing his existence. "You do not deserve it," he screamed. "You do not deserve it. It is mine." The devil resorted to physical violence to move the man, but the man was like stone. The devil resorted to threats, but the man did not hear him. In a final desperate attempt, the devil decided to wager. "What if I bring you the 97 secrets of hell? You can be reincarnated." The man opened his eyes and whispered, "If I know of them and you do as well, how can they be secrets?" And that, my friends, was a cool spot in hell. And I hope you enjoyed it. I like that story, at least. I find it at least a little charming. Oh my, four viewers on YouTube. How delightful. That's amazing. And a few likes as well. The reason I say amazing is because I've only been getting about one person watching on YouTube lately, and that's oh, there you are, Peter. Which, nothing wrong with that. I love you, and I'm grateful for you. But I love seeing that more people are on there as well. Like I said, please start sharing this. Please, if you enjoy the story, make sure you leave a comment. So I hope you like that story. There will be more original stories coming next weekend. For now, though, we will continue the rush in fairy tales, and then tomorrow we will resume Harry Potter. Oh, that water is wonderful. I'm parched. What can I say? But here we are. Let us read a few more tales from this large book. This next one is called The Fox Confessor. Listen to this amazing story. A fox was coming from distant deserts and saw a cock perched on a tall tree. She spoke to him kindly. "Oh, Chanticleer, my beloved child, you are sitting on a tall tree and thinking thoughts that are evil and accursed. You cocks keep many wives. Some of you have as many as 10 of them, some 20, some 30. With time, their numbers reach even 40. Whenever you chance to meet, you fight over your wives and concubines. Come down to the ground, my beloved child, and do penance. I myself have been in distant deserts. I have not eaten nor drunk and have suffered many hardships, and all the time I long to hear your confession, my beloved child. O holy Mother Fox, I have not fasted and I have not prayed. Come some other time. Oh, my beloved child, you have not fasted and you have not prayed, but come down to the ground none the less. Repent, else you will die in sin. O holy Mother Fox, your mouth is as honey. Your words are kind. Your tongue is sweet. Judge not, that ye be not judged. What we have sown, that we shall reap. You want to bring me to repentance by force, not to save me, but to devour my body. Oh, Chanticleer, my beloved child, why do you say such words? Have you read the parable of the publican and the Pharisee, in which the publican is saved and the Pharisee perishes because of his pride? My beloved, you shall perish on your tall tree. Come down lower, then you will be closer to repentance. You will be pardoned and absolved and admitted to the kingdom of heaven. The cock recognized the mortal sin in his soul. He was moved to tears and began to descend from branch to branch, from twig to twig, and from stem to stem. He came down to the ground and sat in front of the fox. The fox, cunning beast that she was, jumped, gripped the cock in her sharp claws, glared at him with ferocious eyes, and gritted her sharp teeth, ready to devour him alive. The impious bird. Quoth Chanticleer to the frog. Quoth Chanticleer. Oh, holy Mother Fox, your mouth is as honey, your words are kind, your tongue is sweet, but will you save me if you devour my body? I do not want your body nor your colored garment. I want to pay you back an old favor. Do you remember? Once, as I was going to a peasant's house to eat a little chick, you, idle fool that you are, perched on a high roost and wailed and shouted in an enormous voice. You began to stamp your feet and flap your wings. Then the hens began to gabble, the geese began to cackle, the dogs began to bark, the stallions to neigh, and the cows to moo. Everyone on the place was aroused. The women came running with broomsticks and the men with axes. They wanted to kill me, all on account of that little chick, and yet an owl has been staying with them from generation to generation and always eats their chicks. No, you idle fool, you shall not escape alive. Quoth the cock, "O holy Mother Fox, your mouth is as honey, your words are kind, your tongue is sweet. Yesterday I was asked by the Trunchinsk Metropolitan to be a deacon. I was praised before the whole choir and congregation as a handsome youth, respectable and with a beautiful voice. Could I not persuade you by my entreaty, Mother Fox, to become at least my wafer woman? We shall profit greatly. We shall be given sweet cakes, great roasts, butter, eggs, and cheeses." The fox was moved by the cock's plea, and her hold on him weakened. The cock tore himself loose, flew up to the tall tree, and wailed and shouted in an enormous voice, "My dear Mrs. Wafer Baker, welcome. Is not the profit great? Are not the wafers sweet? Have you not rubbed off your hump carrying the roasts? Wouldn't you gladly get to the nuts, little rascal? But have you enough teeth?" The fox went into the woods with a very long face and lamented bitterly. "I have been all over the world, and nowhere have I seen anything so disgraceful. Since when are cocks deacons and foxes wafer bakers? So glory and power to the Lord for all time to come. And this is the end of our tale." That made zero sense, unless you understood. Let me know if you did. If you did, good on you. Good on you. That was. I'm glad. Before we went to the original story, that we ended on a high note with the other tale. That was weird. Very weird. Let's hope the next ones are better. This one's called The Bear, and it looks like there's some poetry in it. Once there lived an old man and his wife. Here we go again, and they had no children. It's always an old man and his wife, and either three children with one of them a fool, or no children at all. All right, let's see where this goes. The old woman said to her husband, "Old man, go get some wood." He went and met a bear, who said, "Old man, let us fight." Ooh, a man fighting a bear. That sounds fun. The old man took his axe and cut off one of the bear's paws. He returned home and said to his wife, "Old woman, cook the bear's paws." She removed the skin, placed it under her, and began to pluck out the fur while the paw was cooking on the stove. The bear roared and roared, then thought the matter over and made himself a paw of lime tree wood. He hobbled on his wooden paw to the old man's house and sang, "Creak, my paw, creak, lime wood." And the water sleeps and the earth sleeps. The townsmen sleep, the villagers sleep. Only one woman is awake, sitting on my skin, spinning my fur, cooking my flesh. The old man and his wife were terrified. He hid on the shelf and covered himself with it, and she hid on the stove and covered herself with some black shirts. The bear entered the room from fear. The old man groaned under the trough, and the old woman coughed under the black shirts. The bear found them and ate them. I don't understand. I really don't get these stories. I really don't. All right, moving on to the next one. This one's called The Spider. In case you couldn't hear that, it's called The Spider. In days of yore, in very, very olden times, one lovely spring, one hot summer, a great plague spread over the world. Oh, this is a little close to home, isn't it? Mosquitoes and midges in great swarms began to bite people and drink their blood. Then a spider came, a brave knight, and he began to twist his legs and weave his webs in the paths of the mosquitoes and the midges. A dirty fly fell into the spider's web, and the spider began to beat her, torment her. Spider, little Father Spider, do not beat me, do not kill me. I would leave behind many orphans who would fly into all the yards and annoy the dogs. The spider let her go. She flew away, buzzing, and announced to all the mosquitoes and midges, "Hey, you mosquitoes and midges, hide under the aspen tree root. A spider has come who twists his legs and weaves his webs in the paths of mosquitoes and midges. He'll catch you all." That damned fly, what's his problem? They flew away, hid under the aspen tree root, and lay as though dead. The spider called together a cricket, a beetle, and a woodbug. "You, cricket, sit on a cabbage and smoke a pipe of tobacco. You, beetle, beat a drum. And you, woodbug, go to the aspen tree root and spread the news that I, the valiant spider, the brave knight, am no longer alive. Say that I was sent to Kazan, that in Kazan my head was cut off on the block, and the block was cleft asunder." The cricket sat on a cabbage and smoked a pipe of tobacco. The beetle beat a drum, and the woodbug went to the aspen tree root and said, "Why do you hide? Why do you lie as though dead? The valiant spider, the brave knight, is no longer alive. He was sent to Kazan, and in Kazan his head was cut off on the block, and the block was cleft asunder." They cheered and rejoiced, made the sign of the cross, flew away, and all fell into the spider's webs. He said, "You're nice little things. You should visit me more often, drink beer and wine, and treat yourselves fine." Okay, all right. I guess that wasn't the worst story. Don't understand that last line, but it's okay. Ooh, Baba Yaga. Here's another story. This one's called Baba Yaga and the Brave Youth. Once upon a time, there lived a cat, a sparrow, and a brave youth. The cat and the sparrow went to the forest to chop wood and said to the brave youth, "You keep the house, but mind you, if Baba Yaga comes and counts the spoons, don't say a word. Keep quiet." "Very well," said the brave youth. The cat and the sparrow went away, and the brave youth sat on the stove behind the chimney. Suddenly, Baba Yaga came in, took the spoons, and began to count them. "This is the cat's spoon, this is the sparrow's spoon, and this is the brave youth's spoon." The brave youth could not restrain himself and cried, "Baba Yaga, don't touch my spoon!" Baba Yaga seized the brave youth, sat on the mortar, and flew off. No, Bug, you don't want to get stuck between the page. There we go. And sat on the mortar and flew off. She drove the mortar, spurring it with the pestle and sweeping away her tracks With her broom, the brave youth shouted, "Cat, run! Sparrow, fly!" They heard him and rushed to his help. The cat began to scratch Baba Yaga and the sparrow to peck at her. Thus they rescued the brave youth. The next day, the cat and the sparrow again prepared to go to the forest to chop wood, and told the brave youth, "Mind you, if Baba Yaga comes, do not say anything. Today we are going far away." As soon as the brave youth had sat down on the stove behind the chimney, Baba Yaga came again and again began to count the spoons. "This is the cat's spoon, this is the sparrow's spoon, and this is the brave youth's spoon." The brave youth could not restrain himself and shouted, "Baba Yaga, don't touch my spoon!" Baba Yaga seized the brave youth and dragged him along with her. The brave youth shouted, "Cat, run! Sparrow, fly!" They heard him and rushed to his help. The cat began to scratch and the sparrow to peck at Baba Yaga. Thus they rescued the brave youth. Then they all went home. The third day, the cat and the sparrow prepared once more to go to the forest and chop wood. And they said to the brave youth, "Mind you, if Baba Yaga comes, be silent. Today we are going even further." Now, I don't know why they didn't just bring the youth along and have him chop the wood, but regardless, let us go on. The cat and the sparrow left, and the brave sat on the stove behind the chimney. Suddenly, Baba Yaga again took the spoons and began to count them. "This is the cat's spoon, this is the sparrow's spoon, this is the brave youth's spoon." The brave youth did not say a word. Baba Yaga counted again. "This is the cat's spoon, this is the sparrow's spoon, and this is the brave youth's spoon." The brave youth did not say a word. Baba Yaga counted a third time. "This is the cat's spoon, this is the sparrow's spoon, and this is the brave youth's spoon." The brave youth could not restrain himself any longer and cried loudly, "Don't touch my spoon!" Baba Yaga seized the brave youth and dragged him along with her. He cried, "Cat, run! Sparrow, fly!" But his brothers did not hear him. Baba Yaga took him home, put him in the wooden shed by the stove, made a fire in the stove, and said to her eldest daughter, "I am going to Russia. Meanwhile, roast the brave youth for my dinner." "Very well," said the daughter. The stove grew hot, and the girl told the brave youth to come out of the shed. He came. "Lie down on the roasting pan," said the girl. He lay down, held up one of his feet so that it touched the ceiling, and the other on the floor. The girl said, "No, not that way, not that way." The brave youth said, "How then? Show me." The girl lay down on the roasting pan. The brave youth quickly seized an oven fork, pushed the pan with Baba Yaga's daughter on it into the stove, and went back into the shed to wait for Baba Yaga. Suddenly she ran in and said, "Now I'm going to feast and regale myself on the brave youth's bones." The youth answered her, "Feast and regale yourself on your own daughter's bones." Baba Yaga was startled and looked into the oven. She found her daughter all roasted and roared. "Ha ha, you cheat! Just wait, you won't get away." She ordered her second daughter to roast the brave youth and went away. Her second daughter made a fire in the stove and told the brave youth to come out. He came out, lay on the pan, put one foot on the ceiling and the other on the floor. The girl said, "Not that way, not that way. Show me how." The girl lay on the pan. The brave youth shoved her into the oven, went back to the shed, and sat there. Suddenly he heard Baba Yaga crying. "Now I'm going to feast and regale myself on brave youth's bones," he answered. "Feast and regale on your own daughter's bones." Baba Yaga flew into a rage. "Hey," she said, "just wait, you won't get away." She ordered her youngest daughter to roast him, but to no avail. The brave youth shoved her into the oven too. Baba Yaga flew into an even greater rage. "Now," she said, "this time I swear you won't get away." She made a fire in the stove and cried, "Come out, brave youth, lie on the pan." He lay down, touching the ceiling with one foot, the floor with the other, and thus could not be got into the oven. Baba Yaga said, "Not that way, not that way," pretending that he did not know how. "I don't know how," he said. "Show me." Baba Yaga at once curled up and lay on the pan. The brave youth quickly shoved her into the oven, ran home, and said to his brothers, "That's what I did with Baba Yaga." Well, turns out in this story, Baba Yaga is quite. There's a picture, actually. There is a picture. And that's interesting because in most stories, Baba Yaga is basically like an all-powerful evil witch, and you don't want to cross her. And if you do, you die. Sometimes you die even if you don't cross her. So it's interesting that in that story, Baba Yaga was really dumb, and like really dumb, really, really dumb. Well, you heard the story. Let us move on. How long is this next one? We may do one more. Oh, yes, this is a longer one. So, oh, wow. This is probably no, probably about it. This is the longest Russian fairy tale left. The longest Russian fairy tale yet. So, we'll read this one and we will then end for the night. This one is called Prince Ivan and Princess Martha. For many years, a certain Tsar had kept under lock and key a little peasant, all made of copper, with iron hands and a steel head, a cunning man, a wizard of a man. Prince Ivan, the Tsar's son, who was still a little boy, walked by the prison. The old man called him and began to beg, "Prince Ivan, please give me a drink." Prince Ivan did not know anything yet, and he was very little, so he drew some water and gave it to him. With the help of the water, the old man vanished from the prison. This was reported to the Tsar, who ordered Prince Ivan to be driven from the kingdom. The Tsar's word was law. Prince Ivan was banished, and he left home not knowing where to go. He walked for a long time. At last he arrived and announced himself to the king and asked to be taken into his service. The king accepted him and appointed him stable boy, but all he did in the stable was sleep. He did not tend the horses, and the stable master beat him more than once. Prince Ivan bore all this patiently. Meanwhile, another king had asked for the hand of this king's daughter, was rebuffed, and declared war. The king departed with his troops, and Princess Martha, his daughter, was left to rule the kingdom. Even before this, she had noticed that Prince Ivan was not of lowly origin. Now she appointed him governor of one of her provinces. Prince Ivan left for his province and governed it. One day he was hunting. He had no sooner left the town than the peasant, all made of copper, with iron hands and a steel head, appeared from nowhere. "Good day, Prince Ivan," he said. Prince Ivan returned his greeting. The old man said, "Come, pay me a visit." They walked together. The old man led him into a rich house and called to his little daughter, "Hey, give us food and drink and half-gallon cup of wine." That's a big cup. They began to eat. Suddenly, the daughter brought in a half-gallon cup of wine and presented it to Prince Ivan. He refused, saying, "I cannot drink all that." The old man told him to try. The young prince took the cup and suddenly felt great strength in him. In one draught, he drank all the wine. Then the old man asked him to go for a walk with him. They came to a stone that weighed about 20,000 pounds. The old man said, "Lift that stone, Prince Ivan." He thought, "I surely cannot lift that stone, but I will try." He picked it up, tossed it easily, and said to himself, "Whence comes all this new strength? Probably the old man has given it to me with his wine." They walked some time, then returned home. The old man told his second daughter to bring a gallon of wine. Prince Ivan boldly took the cup and drank it in one draught. Then again they went for a walk and came to a stone that weighed 40,000 pounds. The old man said to Prince Ivan, "Try to toss this stone." Prince Ivan snatched it at once, tossed it, and thought to himself, "What strength there is in me!" Again they returned home, and the old man told his youngest daughter to bring a gallon and a half of green wine. Prince Ivan drank that too, and in one draught went again to walk with the old man, and this time easily tossed a stone that weighed 60,000 pounds. Then the old man gave him a self-serving tablecloth and said, "Now, Prince Ivan, you have such strength that no horse will carry you. Have the porch of your house made over, else it will not support you. You also need other chairs and more rafters under the floor. God speed you." All the people laughed when they saw the governor returning from the hunt on foot and leading his horse by the bridle. He came home, had supports put under the floors, and his chairs made over, dismissed all his cooks and chambermaids, and lived alone like a hermit. Everyone wondered how he could live without eating. No one cooked for he was fed by his self-serving tablecloth. He ceased visiting anyone, because none of the chairs in other people's houses could support his weight. The king returned from his campaign, learned that Prince Ivan was governor of a province, ordered that he be replaced, and again made him a stable boy. There was nothing Prince Ivan could do about it, and he began once more to live as a stable boy. One day the groom ordered him to do something and struck him. Prince Ivan could not restrain himself. He struck back and knocked off the groom's head. This affair reached the ears of the king. Prince Ivan was brought before him. "Why did you kill the groom?" asked the king. "He struck me first. I hit back, not very hard, but somehow his head fell off." The other stable boys said the same thing, that the groom had hit first and that Prince Ivan had not hit him back hard. No punishment was meted out for Prince Ivan, but he was in the army and began to live as a soldier. A short time afterward, a little man no bigger than a nail, with a beard a cubit long, came to the king and handed him a letter from the Water King with 3 black seals on it. The letter ran as follows: If the king does not put his daughter Princess Martha on such and such an island on such and such a day to be given in marriage to the Water King's son, he will kill all the people and burn the whole kingdom, and a 3-headed dragon will come for Princess Martha. The king read this letter and wrote a letter to the Water King saying that he would give him his daughter. He politely escorted the little old man to the door of the palace, then summoned his senators and councillors to hold council as to how they might defend his daughter against the 3-headed dragon. If he failed to send her to the island, the Water King would devastate the whole kingdom. A call was issued. Will someone volunteer to rescue Princess Martha from the dragon? To him the king would give her in marriage. A boastful nobleman responded to the call, took a company of soldiers, and brought Princess Martha to the island. He left her in a hut, and he himself waited for the dragon outside. Meanwhile, Prince Ivan learned that Princess Martha had been taken to the Water King, so he too armed himself and went to the island. He came into the hut and found Princess Martha weeping. "Don't worry, princess," he said to her. "God is merciful." He lay on a bench, put his head on Princess Martha's knees, and fell asleep. Suddenly the dragon appeared, and water rushed in after him to a height of 3 yards. When the water began to rise, the boastful nobleman who was stationed there with his soldiers ordered, "March to the woods!" All the soldiers hid in the woods. The dragon came out and made straight for the hut. Princess Martha saw the dragon coming for her and awakened Prince Ivan. He jumped down from the bench. In one stroke, cut off all the 3 heads of the dragon and left. The nobleman took Princess Martha home to the king, her father. After a short time, the little old man, no bigger than a nail, with a beard a cubit long, again came out of the water and brought a letter from the Water King with 6 black seals on it, summoned the king to put his daughter on the same island to be taken by a 6-headed dragon. If the king refused to surrender her, the Water King threatened to flood the whole kingdom. The prince wrote in answer that he agreed to surrender Princess Martha. The little old man left. The king issued a call, and messengers were sent everywhere. Could not a man be found to rescue the princess from the dragon? And here's a picture, by the way. I know some of these pictures aren't really anything special or whatever. They're kind of cool, but anyway, figured you'd want to see it. The same nobleman presented himself again, saying, "Your Majesty, I will rescue her. Only give me a company of soldiers." "Don't you need more than a company? This time, it is a dragon with 6 heads." "No, a company is enough. I don't need more." The party gathered, and they took Princess Martha away. When Prince Ivan learned that the princess was again in danger, remembering the kindness that she had done him by appointing him governor, he went to the island. Again he found Princess Martha in the hut and entered. She was waiting for him and rejoiced to see him. He lay down and fell asleep. Suddenly the 6-headed dragon began to emerge, and 6 yards of water rushed in. This time the nobleman and his soldiers had posted themselves in the woods. Immediately the dragon entered the hut, and Princess Martha awakened Prince Ivan. The dragon and Prince Ivan came to blows and fought and fought. Prince Ivan cut off 1 head of the dragon, a second, a third, and finally all 6 heads, and cast them into the water, and went away as though nothing had happened. The nobleman and his soldiers came out of the woods and went home and reported to the king that God had helped them to Martha, and it seems that this same nobleman threatened the princess in some manner, for she did not dare to say that it was not he who had rescued her. The nobleman began to insist upon marrying her, but Princess Martha told him to wait. "Let me recover from my fear," she said. "I was terribly, terribly frightened." Suddenly, once more, the same little old man, no bigger than a nail, with a beard a cubit long, emerged from the water and brought a letter with 9 black seals, demanding that the king straightway send Princess Martha to such and such an island on such and such a day, to be carried off by a 9-headed dragon, and threatening, if he did not send her, to flood the whole kingdom. Again the king wrote in answer that he agreed, and began to seek a man who could rescue the princess, a company of soldiers, and Princess Martha. Prince Ivan heard about it, armed himself, and went to the island too, and Princess Martha was waiting for him. She was overjoyed to see him and began to question him as to his place of birth, his father's name, and his own name. He did not answer, but lay down and fell asleep. The 9-headed dragon began to emerge and brought with him a flood of water 9 yards high. Again, the nobleman ordered the soldiers to march to the woods, and they hid there. Princess Martha began to rouse Prince Ivan, but could not awaken him. The dragon was nearing the threshold. She wept, but still could not awaken Prince Ivan. The dragon began to crawl close, ready to snatch Prince Ivan, but still he slept. Princess Martha had a penknife, and with it she cut Prince Ivan's cheek. He awoke, jumped up, and began to shout insults at the dragon. Now the dragon began to have the upper hand in the fight. Out of nowhere appeared the little peasant, all made of copper, with iron hands and a steel head, and he gripped the dragon. The two together cut off all the heads, cast them into the water, and left. The nobleman was happier than ever, came rushing out of the woods, went home to his kingdom, and began to press the king to celebrate the wedding. Princess Martha refused. "Wait a little while, let me recover," she said. "I was terribly frightened." Again, the little man, no bigger than a nail, with a beard a cubit long, brought her a letter. Real quick, I'm going to look up cubit. Let's see how long a cubit is. Cubit distance. 18 isn't that long. It's only 18 inches. So an 18-inch beard, that's not completely unreasonable like some of these beard and mustache lengths are. Anyway, and hey, I'm glad to see a few of you else who have joined it here with story time. Glad all of you are here. Keep sharing, keep liking, keep subscribing. All right, continuing with the story. The 18-inch, 1-cubit beard. From the water and brought a letter with no. We already read about the 9 seals. We're on this page. Yes, here we go. Again, the little man, bigger than a nail, with a beard a cubit long, brought a letter. The Water King demanded the dragon's slayer. The nobleman did not feel like going to the Water King, but there was nothing that he could do. He was ordered to go there. A ship was rigged out, and they set sail. Prince Ivan was now serving in the fleet, and somehow happened to be on this ship. They were sailing along briskly when a ship came toward them. It flew like a bird, and from it came cries as it rushed by. "The culprit! The culprit!" They sailed on a little farther and met another ship, and again cries came from it. "The culprit! The culprit!" Prince Ivan pointed at the nobleman. He was thrashed and thrashed until he was half dead. The ship went by. Now they came to the Water King. He ordered that a bath of iron or steel be heated red hot, and the culprit put in it. The nobleman was terrified. His heart went into his boots. Little Father Death was coming, but one man on the ship had become attached to Prince Ivan and served him faithfully, realizing that he was not of lowly birth. Okay, yes. Prince Ivan sent him, saying, "Do you go and sit in that bath. Do you go and sit in that bath?" He went at once, and, wonder of wonders, nothing happened to him. He came back unharmed. Again the culprit was sent for, this time to be brought before the Water King himself. The Water King abused him roundly, thrashed him, and had him driven out. Then they all went home. Upon his return, the nobleman began to boast even louder than before. He did not leave the king's side for a moment, so impatient was he to have the wedding celebrated. The king agreed, and a day was set for the nuptials. Now the nobleman was very proud, so proud no one dared to touch him or come near him. But the princess said to her father, "Father, command all the soldiers to assemble. I want to look at them." Straightway the soldiers were assembled. Princess Martha reviewed them all. When she came to Prince Ivan, she glanced at his cheek and saw the scar she had made when she cut him with her penknife. She took him by the hand and led him to the father. "Here is the man who rescued me from the dragon, father," she said. "I did not know who he was, but now I recognize him by the scar on his cheek. The nobleman just sat in the woods with his soldiers." All the soldiers were asked whether they had sat in the woods while the dragon was slain, and they answered, "That is the truth, your royal majesty." The nobleman was half dead from shame. He was disgraced and banished, but Prince Ivan married Princess Martha, and they began to live and chew bread together. Chew bread together? That's quite an old phrase. Oh well. Regardless, that was the longest story yet, and gosh, it was pretty long. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't the worst one we've read, was it? Anyway, it's 11 o'clock, which means we've been reading Russian fairy tales for a little while now. So I'm putting the book away, and I'm going to call it a night. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to join the Storytime group on Facebook, and don't forget to like and subscribe my page, Beep Corny One, on YouTube, and share it all with your friends. This happens every night at 10 p.m. unless I say otherwise. So tomorrow we will be resuming with Storytime, and we will be picking up where we left off in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone with chapters 15 and 16. The following night, we will be reading. And yes, thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it. And and don't forget, everyone, if you have any recommendations, anything you would like me to read, you can comment on the videos. I may or may not see it. The best way to do it, though, is to join the Facebook group Storytime, and just leave a comment. Comment somewhere in the group, say, this is what I would like you to read, and we'll see if we can make it happen. Anyway, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm glad it's picking up a little bit. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and that the week to come is fantastic. Until next time, I bid you adieu.